What's up, everybody? I'm Luke Buckley. Joe Marino with me again today. Glad to be back with you here on the Cautiously Optimistic podcast. Off season rolls on. We are approaching the draft. I think, are we 2 weeks, 3 weeks away? 3 weeks exactly away? Isn't it Oh,
It's
next
next
week?
week.
I thought it was
It's next week.
July 8th. Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that would have been after free
it's
agency. Oh.
it's next Wednesday.
Well, there we go. It shows how much
Yeah,
of a draft guy I am. Great
yeah, we're
start to the
back
show.
to
Great start.
the we're back to the July 1st free agency day as well. So
Oh,
the
good.
yeah.
So the world is
Yes.
indeed back to normal. That's sign number one.
Yes, the NHL draft calendar is back to normal, meaning that everything is fine on a Wednesday and a Thursday this year, which, as long as I've been following the draft, I've never seen anything like that.
It used to be a Friday.
The last time there was like a weird setup, yeah, it's usually like a Friday would be day one, and then day two would be Saturday. In 2013, the New Jersey draft, the whole draft was in one day. I remember, or they might have done round two on that Friday. I remember it would be like first round, and then it just carried right over. But they haven't done anything like that since. But I don't know why this draft is on a random Wednesday this year. Ratings are probably going to be not as good, but the NHL knows more than us, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah,
well, the
Wednesday.
NHL also knows a lot about terrible ratings, judging from this season. I think wasn't this the lowest rated Stanley Cup like ever? Maybe not
sure.
ever, but I saw
that'd be kind of surprising though, with the cup being on TNT.
It seems that ratings have not been good, surprisingly, with going to TNT. Maybe they need to move it to ESPN. Don't they?
Are they? Yeah, I was just gonna say. I think they're alternating every year for this new agreement, but yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. So here we are. Of course, Sabres have made a couple signings, couple re-signings. But before we get into that, I like to start off on a little bit of a lighthearted note. Show the listeners, if you're watching on YouTube, of course you can check us out on YouTube now. Just type in Cautiously Optimistic on YouTube and we'll pop up. It's a show logo and you'll find us. Subscribe and like, whatever. Joe, show the listeners your drink.
My drink?
Yeah, show them your drink. Because see, that color scheme, the blue, yellow, blue, I thought Joe was drinking a Twisted Tea before we came on. And he is leaving for vacation, so I was like, is he pre-gaming on air? And I know you're driving, so in hindsight, maybe that wouldn't have been so smart.
Right.
I should have thought about that. But that looks so much like a Twisted Tea.
Yes, it is the Swedish Fish flavor of the Ghost energy drink. Being at the age I am now, I'm starting to lose my metabolism, so I'm trying to cut out the sugar, and so but I need the caffeine, and I don't like coffee, so trying to break in the sugar-free energy drink that won't taste terrible. So
there you go.
Swedish Fish flavor, very good.
Good. Well, if
highly recommend.
That's good. And folks, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I told Joe before we went on air that black coffee might be the purest form of energy you can get. But I rest my case. But if that tastes good, have at it. No sugar.
It's amazing. No sugar.
Good. I imagine
lots of caffeine.
Oh, good. Well, good. There you go. Good way to kickstart your day.
As you mentioned, going on vacation tonight, we're driving to Minnesota. My sister, brother-in-law, and my niece and nephew. So it should be
that'll be fun.
Quite the adventure.
Yeah.
A 14, 15-hour drive to see some family. And
that sounds like a blast.
Hopefully, in an ideal world, I will be back in Buffalo by the time of the draft on Wednesday. If I am back in town, we will most likely be doing a live stream similarly to what we did on draft lottery day. Hopefully we'll have a couple guests on, kind of offer some analysis. assuming I'm not driving during the draft. So
yeah,
fingers crossed. Still in motion. I'll probably know more over the next few days or so.
As long as you're in the door of your house by pick 13, right? I think that would be sufficient.
Right. Yes.
Unless there's a trade. But
yeah, so correct.
Yes. I know we wanted to start with maybe inflating our tires a bit, right, Joe, about the Zemgus Girgensson deal, because if my memory serves me correct, and I think you recall this too, I think we said 2.5 million was right in the range for Zemgus Girgensson's, and that's what he
Right.
gets on a 1-year extension to stay with the Sabres. So we wanted it. What do you think?
Him and Oposo signed the same contract, both 1 year, 2.5 million. I thought he would maybe get more than 1 year. I think in my armchair GM article on thechargingbuffalo.net, I had Girgensons on a 3-year deal at about 2.5. It might have been 2.3, something like that. But he was at 2.2 before, so a nice little raise for Girgensons. I know a lot of people were kind of surprised that they re-signed him, but if you pay attention, Girgensons wanted to come back. The whole team wanted him back, and Adams wanted him back, and probably Granato wanted him back too. Like, you connect the dots, it makes sense. He's coming back. They still need veteran leadership on the team. The guy's been here in the organization for 11 years now, coming up on 11 years since he's been drafted. And he loves it here, clearly. And, he probably could have went to free agency, gotten a 4 or 5 year deal from a contending team, but he wanted to see it through here, similarly to Oposo. So these guys, they like it here. They help turn around the culture, and they want to see it through. And what better guy to see it through than Zemgus Girgensons, who has seen the beginning, middle, and end of this rebuild in Buffalo.
Yeah, and after last season, I think we finally got a chance to see just how valuable he was, because he played on what I still consider was a good team. It was a really good team. And when you're in the position the Sabres are in, why would you deconstruct any part of your roster unless it was a glaring weakness? Right now, it seems like all they want to do is retain and add.
Yes.
I did not get to hear any of the pressers this week, but I did catch some quotes, and I know that they're interested in bringing back Tyson Jost. So he should be back on the team, and they're linked to some defensemen.
Correct.
Notably Brett
We'll
Pesce.
get into that. Yeah.
We'll get into that, but his name isn't floated about. So I love it just because, I mean, they're not in a position anyway to subtract from the team. There's no reason to. It was injuries in defense that doomed you last year. So they're not going to try and improve on anything other than what needs improvement, right? Like, they brought back the guys that were solid and succeeded last year. So no surprise bringing him back. Keep him on that line with Oposo. And no, it's a net positive all the way around.
He scores 10 goals every season. Every season he's healthy for the last 4 or 5 years, I want to say. The guy scored double-digit goals. And I know a big gripe that fans have with Girgensons is he doesn't produce offense, but he does. He's their best defensive forward. He kills penalties. Wasn't as good of a penalty killer last year, but from his whole body of work throughout his entire career, he's been a good penalty killer. And he produces goals every season he's healthy. I wouldn't be surprised if they extend him beyond this contract, depending on how some of their prospects pan out. But yeah, it was a no-brainer bringing him back. And I know that, like, yeah, could you do an upgrade? Maybe. But he's a fourth-line player. Like, it's a lateral move at best if you were going to replace Zemgus Girgensons. Well, on one hand, you're looking at a fourth-line player for Girgensons. That would be the replacement level, like a Miles Wood or Pierre Engvall. But you run the risk of, okay, you want to replace Girgensons? He's also going to be fielding offers from other teams. And also, from a replacement perspective, those guys have to want to be here too. And then all of a sudden, okay, Girgensons goes to sign with Pittsburgh, and Engvall stays on the island, and Miles Wood goes to Winnipeg. I don't know. And now you're like, oh, whoops. What do we do now? They got a guy that they like. He wants to be here, and he's a good fit. Why not bring him back? I think I said it the day that they signed Girgensons to the extension. If you don't want him back, it's just like making a change for the sake of making a change. Like, he's a good player. Did he live up to his first round pick draft status? No, but for God's sake, that was 11 years ago. It's time to probably get over that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, first of all. And you want good for him. Missed the pandemic season, of course. Was it a torn quad that kept him out?
He got injured in the inter-squad game before the season started. I remember watching it. It was, I don't know what the injury was, but it wasn't good. That's for sure.
So it's pretty cool that he worked his way back and got another contract in his career. So not easy to come back from a season-ending injury, no matter what it is. I know it was a few years ago, but still good on him. And key piece to that bottom six, retained.
And Tyson Jost, you mentioned him a little bit ago. Kevin Adams asked about the prospect of bringing Tyson Jost back, and he was very enthusiastic about it. Yeah, we want him back. And if you listen to Jost speak on Locker Cleanout Day, he wanted to come back too. He was like, I think he was citing when he was like talking to his parents or something about how great of a group they have in Buffalo, and he wants to be a part of it. Now, he does have a high qualifying offer. He's making $2 million right now. I think his qualifying offer is like $2.25 million or something like that. And I know it's probably an overpay, but when you got the cap space that the Sabres have, who cares? It doesn't matter. A lot of people just put too much stock into what guys are making. And in reality, right now, the Sabres have a ton of cap space. And if a fourth line player is making a little bit too much money, what does it matter? And in the grand scheme of things, I think a lot of people are worried that bringing back Jost, Girgensons, Okposo, they're going to block out the likes of Yuri Kulik or Isaac Rozan or Matt Savoy. But it just doesn't make any sense. Like, Kulik is not going to be playing on the fourth line. Kulik is a goal scorer. Yeah, you want him to develop that defensive game, but why not have him develop that defensive game in Rochester for another season instead of throwing him in the deep end in Buffalo, saying, good luck, you're on the fourth line, and you're probably not going to have the best line mates that are going to set you up for success. It just doesn't make sense. Prepare for Yuri Kulik to go back to Rochester. It's going to happen. We've been saying this for months now. And if you really think about it, Luke, how many late first-round picks become basically full-time NHL players 2 years after being drafted?
Yeah, good point.
Not many. David Pastrnak, Robert Thomas, that's about it in the last 10, 15 years. There's not a lot of instances where a guy who's picked 25th, 26th, 27th overall, like Kulik was, where he is an everyday NHL player 2 seasons after being drafted. It just doesn't happen. It's okay to have some patience there.
Well, just before we get too far into that, according to Cap Friendly, Tyson Jost qualifying offer is $2,250,000. So it's $250,000 more than what he's making right now,
which is fine.
Yeah.
It's chum change for this team. They'll be okay.
Yeah.
And if Jost is your 13th forward, you're probably in pretty good shape. Let's be honest. He's probably their fourth line center, maybe third line center, but he's versatile. He can play wing too. Honestly,
whatever they did with him last year, it worked. So
he was good.
keep doing that.
I don't know why people just assumed that they weren't going to give him a qualifying offer.
Mm.
It just never made sense to me. A lot of people just thought that they were going to graduate Kulich and best of luck.
Mm.
Kulich had a great year in Rochester, but it's not in the Sabres' nature to just rush the guys. He might be NHL ready, but they're at a point right now where they can be patient with their prospects. They have a good NHL roster. They can be patient. And yet, Kulich is probably going to play NHL games next year, but he's not going to be an everyday player, especially given that they're full at forward right now. They have 13 guys on the roster, assuming Jost comes back, and they have to trade Victor Olofsson. So he's not making the team, folks, unless there's a rash of injuries in preseason, that is.
Well, another signing that was made, and I think a minor relief, certainly was to me, and also just pleasant to have him around, Lukas Rousek.
Yeah.
Has re-signed with the Sabres. There were rumors a couple months ago maybe he'd go overseas. They were debunked a little bit, but I think kind of that the specter of that was lingering over Rousek for a little while. But the Sabres have locked him up. I think was it 1 year that they signed him back
2
to?
years.
2 years. So good. So
at league minimum. So
you wonder if I don't know. Does he float around the NHL roster? I mean, he came up here for a few games last year. There were injuries, but he scored a goal. He looked pretty good. He can play that defensive role. Had some flashes offensively as well. So he's a guy who I wonder. I mean, you give him a 2-year deal, you got to think he's at least the first call up, or he'll float around a little bit on the main roster.
I think he's an extra forward in Buffalo next year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He still needs to play, I believe, 60-ish games to require waivers. So they can, if they wanted to send him to Rochester, they're able to. And also a good time to remind people that one-way versus two-way contracts don't have anything to do with waivers. It's all about games played. So if Rousek has only played 2 NHL games, so he still needs to basically put in a full season of NHL games to require waivers. So I think he'll probably be on the roster as a fill-in guy. Someone gets injured, Rousek, he can play up and down the lineup. He showed that last year in his cup of coffee with the team. Brings a lot of speed, energy, and can produce offense. So,
well, how about this? Point per game player at the NHL level. 2 games played, 2 points.
Yeah, I was there for his first NHL goal. It might have been against the Canadiens. I thought he didn't look out of place whatsoever.
I'll go with it.
In his time in Buffalo. So I think it's time for him to get more in 2 games at the NHL level.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about Rousek. I'm glad that they were able to keep him in the fold. He's a little bit older,
24 years old.
Yeah, he was I think in the last Botterill draft. So he was 20 when they drafted him. So he was a double overager. Nice to see him work out. I really like him as a player. I liked him as a prospect, and he's a guy who put a lot of work in Rochester, and it's paying off. And I think it's an interesting situation depending on how they handle free agency, because they can very well bring in a couple depth forwards to be their 13th and 14th forward, or it can be Rousek and Brett Murray. Brett Murray's another guy who could be
Brett the Threat
on the edge of making the NHL roster. And I believe at Murray's age, he might have to go through waivers next season. And given his size and his AHL production, I wonder if Brett Murray would get claimed off the waivers if the Sabres put him through. So maybe they'd be more inclined to give him a roster spot out of the gate. That would be something interesting to follow. I would have to double check Cap Friendly to make sure that Murray is no longer waivers exempt for next season, but that's something to keep an eye out for.
I'm trying. I don't know where to find it.
I think it's under calculators.
Oh, I see. Calculators.
The waivers
Waivers
calculator.
calculator. There it is. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Team. Sabres. Where the hell is he? Brett Murray, where are you? Anywho. He may or may not be.
Yeah, I don't think he's waivers exempt anymore. So, and I think an Oilers beat reporter from like last year or so brought Murray up as a trade candidate.
Oh, wow.
I don't think Brett Murray is anything special, but he's a great AHL player. So it'd be nice to see him get a chance, but like at his size and his AHL production, I feel like some team would claim him off waivers if Buffalo can't find a spot for him. But we'll see.
He's
Yeah,
6'5".
Yeah, he's a big boy. Big Murr, as they like to call him.
I love it. Still think he should be called the Threat, but
Brett the Threat Murray.
Whatever.
I want to talk about Jordan Greenway.
Okay.
Really quick. The Skyline, maybe it happens next year. We'll see. But I think a lot of people are just writing Greenway off. It's kind of sad. The guy barely played here last year, and it seems like a lot of people are writing him off. Was it perfect? No, not perfect, but he's a good defensive forward. Big, add some physicality to the lineup, and I think there's more to give there. After he came back from that injury, he ended the season very strongly. A lot of people thought that he was probably just the Girgensons replacement. But listen, you don't give up a second and a fifth round pick for a fourth line player that's signed for 2 more years at $3 million. So they're going to give this guy every opportunity to play up and down the lineup and succeed. And Granato's a big believer in him. Remember, he was pounding the table for him on deadline day. So,
yes.
Maybe if it doesn't work out, they look to trade him or buy him out at the end of the year or two, but they're going to give this guy a chance to succeed. And that's not on the fourth line. Well, it's not going to happen on the fourth line because Girgensons and Oposo are back. So he's going to be in a top 9 role. Whether you love it or hate it, it's going to happen.
Maybe people are overlooking it because they're assuming that Kulich or Savoy will make the jump right away. Someone will be here, but yeah, he's there to throw a wrench in the plans, and he'll be on the everyday roster. Of course, he had a bumpy start to his career here, but
he was injured.
Yeah, but no, he finished off really strong. One of the key contributors down the stretch, had some really important, timely goals. So yeah, I'm excited for him. Get a training camp under his belt, right?
Yes.
Work with the staff. Have some time off with the team, hang around the team a little bit in a not as stressful or time-sensitive environment. Just get around the team a little bit more, and he'll be fine.
Listen, I trust Don Granato more than anyone. If Don Granato thinks he can turn this guy's career around, I believe it, and I'm willing to give him more than 15, 20 games to show it. I'm giving Greenway the whole year to show what he's got. So he could be a great power forward, and he just needed Don Granato to be the sculptor and sculpt that vision. But we'll see what happens there. But if Greenway works out and becomes a 20-goal scorer, power forward, can kill penalties, that's a great trade. And if it doesn't work out, at least they went down swinging. Because if you can, that kind of player, they don't grow on trees. A player that big with the skill that he has, defensive awareness that he has, if that works out, that's a great move. But they can get out of that, I'm sure, if it doesn't work out. So yeah, I respect the effort on that Greenway trade. But I think, folks, you got to give Greenway a little more time. He came in, he was injured, came back and was good. I wouldn't write him off.
Yeah, not at all, as some would say. So yeah, still plenty to look forward to. Lots of guys coming back, lots of guys sticking around, and lots of guys maybe making the jump next year. What else? What else has been happening lately? What else have we not quite covered?
You want to talk about the goalies?
Sure.
Yeah, let's talk about the goalies. So yesterday, Adams was asked about his comfort level with his three goalies, and to no surprise, he said he was very comfortable. He thinks he has three NHL goaltenders. And of course, he's not doing his job if he's not looking around for upgrades, which I think I tweeted this yesterday. If you listen to what Kevyn Adams says, he tells you what he's going to do. Always. He's not shy about telling you what his plan is, what he's looking to do. Last year, even before the deadline, he said that he wanted to maybe look to get a little tougher because they were getting bullied. He was looking for a depth defenseman ad, and he did just that. They got Riley Stillman, and they got Jordan Greenway, two tougher guys. He's telling you what his plan is. He's comfortable with those three goalies. Does that mean he's going to have all three of those goalies on the NHL roster next year? I doubt it. They're obviously comfortable with having three goalies on the roster. And I know that the notion of three goalies on the roster is like terrifying to some people, but does it really matter? I don't know. I think if you have three goalies on your roster, it's not the end of the world, but especially if they're all good, which I don't think the goalies that they have under contract right now are all good, except for Devin Levi, but that remains to be seen. What they're going to do, they're going to explore an upgrade in net. Are they going to trade for Connor Hellebuyck? I highly doubt it. Are they going to trade for a Carter Hart? Probably not. If they're going to trade for a guy, it's going to be someone that's going to come cheap and is like a short-term solution. I don't think they're trading for or signing anyone to a long-term deal here. The ideal candidate, I think, is probably a guy like Frederik Andersen or an Antti Raanta, someone who in the 30s has a ton of experience, and you can kind of have as a tandem with Devin Levi and or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. So I think Anderson's probably the most realistic option, especially, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Frederik Andersen's sister signed with the Buffalo Beauts.
Yes, I did see that.
So I think connecting the dots there, very interesting to see. Does Frederik Andersen want to come to the Buffalo Sabres to be close to his sister?
Yeah. Well, did she come over straight from where are they from? Is it Denmark?
Denmark. She went to college in the States.
Okay.
I forget which. It might have been Maine. University of Maine she might have been at, but it's very interesting. I know Carolina, there's talk that they might bring back both Raanta and Andersen to play with Kochetkov, and they might go three goalies next year too. So the UFA goalie market is very dry, and I'm anticipating like the best guys going back to the teams that they currently are on. Like Adin Hill, I just can't see Vegas not bringing him back. And this is assuming that Robin Lehner is done. His career's over, and they put him on LTIR, by the way. But like the way that he played in the playoffs, I just cannot see Vegas letting him go. I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, he's going back. I think Varlamov is going back to the Islanders. Tristan Jarry, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about Tristan Jarry. What are your thoughts on him? He might be available.
Well, injury prone. I don't think we need that right now. That would be my main concern. I don't think I'd be interested. There are rumors that Toronto is looking to part with Matt Murray. So perhaps Murray corrects the wrong that he made and says, well, hey, I'm sorry, guys. Maybe I do want to come play for you. That's something.
Beggars can't be choosers.
That's right. That's right. He's getting a job somewhere. So maybe that comes to fruition this offseason.
Maybe he goes to Pittsburgh. Kyle
Mm-hmm.
Dubas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Perhaps maybe Dubas
Yeah.
says, hey, goes back there. Interesting. If
Yeah.
they
I don't know.
especially if they do lose Jari.
If I were a betting man, I think the odds-on favorite goalie tandem for Buffalo next year is probably going to be Levi and Luukkonen.
Mm-hmm.
An external addition, I think Frederik Andersen is probably the most likely scenario. I just can't see Buffalo trading any big assets to get a goalie right now. I just can't see it.
Well,
They're confident with what they've got, and I think if in the worst case scenario, they're probably bringing back what they have.
if they go in the direction of the 3 goalies, here's a guy, if I could be Chris Collinsworth for a minute, who played quite a few playoff games this year. What about Laurent Brossoit? You don't want to get caught in the trap of, well, he played good in the playoffs, but he's not going to play 50 games.
Right.
But what about bring him in? He could be your third guy if you want to go down that route. He's been a backup his whole life, so he knows what it's like. This is probably his
I don't
best
know.
season, I think.
I
But
feel
he'll
like
be available.
I think Laurent Brossoit is a trap. I don't know.
That'll be the only thing holding me back is
Yeah.
perhaps he's a trap.
I don't know.
But I think he has a good rapport over the last few years. He was good in Winnipeg. He was good with Vegas. Obviously, won a lot of playoff games. So before he got injured, he was one of the goalies that got injured for them. So he'll be available, obviously, because they're going to ride with Thompson and Aiden Hill.
He wants to go back to Vegas too, though. So who knows what happens there?
Well, I mean, that might not be entirely his choice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but other than that, it's very bleak unless you go way down the list and want to bring in Strauss-Mann. I'm just kidding at this point.
I know this isn't going to be a popular take here, but I'm not saying that this is a good move, but Jonathan Quick,
perhaps.
If they want to do the 3 goalie kind of deal, Jonathan Quick, he's got 3 Stanley Cups, kind of another Craig Anderson type role. Obviously, you want someone better than Jonathan Quick, but he showed that on a better team, a better defensive team like Vegas, he played pretty well there. I don't know. I feel like that's the break glass in case of emergency kind of guy. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sabres take we need guys who've won Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
They have the playoff experience. And I saw earlier a report from Emily Kaplan saying that Erik Johnson, it likely will not be brought back by the Colorado Avalanche. Another guy who won a Stanley Cup, right-handed defenseman, former number 1 overall pick, veteran leader that you can kind of maybe not be Owen Power's partner. He could be the extra defenseman, but the guy who can kind of be that veteran leader if they want to go down that route. See, my thought is a guy like Jonathan Quick, a guy like Erik Johnson, those are the worst case scenario is they just keep the same exact team. They bring everyone back. They don't do anything. That's the worst case. And then slightly above that, after worst case, is they do bring in another defenseman, another goalie, but they're not the sexy name. It's Jonathan Quick and it's Erik Johnson. They just bring in a couple veteran leaders who have tons of playoff experience and Stanley Cups on their resume. And then the best case scenario for me, it would be they trade for Brett Pesce. They trade for they sign Freddie Anderson. That'd be my best case scenario. What about you? What's your best case scenario?
I think I'm with you on Brett Pesce, but I'm holding out hope. Semyon Varlamov test out free agency. Maybe get him in here. Quick, I think would be neat as having a name and a veteran presence, but I don't see him getting above productive numbers again. That's just not how he's been trending the last few years. So If he's in the Craig Anderson role, I mean, Craig Anderson was better than him last year.
Yeah.
So unless he's playing far fewer games than Anderson did, I don't know. Just looking at his numbers and his age, I don't think there's any room for a bounce back there, unfortunately. But again, to have a guy in the room, I guess it would be nice, but I don't think it's worth it having a guy in the room and to keep, just for the sake of having 3 goalies, right?
Yeah. I
So
think they're past that point of
yeah.
warm bodies that are just good leaders. I think you want to
Yeah.
get better players
Mm-hmm.
in an ideal world. But I'm not saying that Jonathan Quick and Eric Johnson are the good moves, but I think those are okay. We didn't get this goalie, we didn't get that goalie, but hey, what about Jonathan Quick? Kind of like Eric Comrie last year.
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't get Matt Murray, we didn't
He
get
could
this
be better
other
than
guy.
Comrie, I think.
Oh,
But,
I'd rather have Jonathan Quick than Eric Comrie. I
Mhm.
think Eric Comrie's getting waived, and if anyone's saying that Comrie's going to get claimed, not happening. There's no way that Eric Comrie gets claimed, and if he does, see ya. I don't know.
My best case scenario is Varlamov. I've been touting that, I think, since
he'd be
mid-season.
great.
I've been touting it for a few months now. I wanted it, so hopefully the stars align and they're interested and can bring him in.
I think that it's more likely than not that they're doing a 3 goalie thing next year. How old is Frederik Andersen?
Anderson,
32, 33?
He's 33.
Okay, he's 33. That might be in the 1-year deal category. Do they sign a guy like Frederik Andersen and kind of do the 3 goalie rotation with Anderson, Levi, and Luukkonen? Because I feel like long term, their vision is Levi's your starter, Luukkonen's your backup. Do they kind of get a guy like Frederik Andersen to be, because like Levi's not going to play 50, 60 games this year. It's just not going to happen. He's 22 years old. That just doesn't happen. So maybe they bring in Anderson to kind of split the games 50-50 with Devin Levi. Not even 50-50. Luukkonen's there. Luukkonen plays 15, 20 games, and then they split the rest 50-50 with Levi and Anderson. Kind of go that route. Let Anderson go at the end of the year. And then I think in their perfect world, Devin Levi is good to be your starter, and Luukkonen has developed into a backup that you can trust. That sounds like something that might be of interest to the Sabres. And having 3 goalies is never ideal, but I get the feeling that they don't want to trade Luukkonen. I don't know. That's just my gut feeling. And I think the talk about Eric Comrie being on the team yesterday, I think that's all lip service. I don't think there's any scenario where Eric Comrie is on the Buffalo Sabres opening night roster unless an injury happens.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. He'll absolutely not be here.
Or if he, maybe he shows up to camp and is just lights out. Who knows? Goalies are like that. So
perhaps, but hey, that's the point of camp. So I can't say, well, I don't want that to be the determining factor, but that is the point of it after all. So,
and if Comrie does show up and is great, bravo, awesome. We needed that. We needed that last year, my friend. But yeah, anyways, let's talk about Brett Pesce. Last week on TSN's Insider Trading segment, Pierre LeBrun talking about how Brett Pesce and the Carolina Hurricanes are talking contract extension, and if the Hurricanes can't come to an extension, they're more likely than not going to look to move him, and Kevin Adams and the Buffalo Sabres are one of probably several teams that would be interested in trading for Pesce. Pesce's a 28, I believe he's 28.
28 years old.
Yeah, 28-year-old right-handed defenseman.
Right-handed.
Two-way defenseman. very stout defensively, is the word that you can probably call it. He's been on a very good value contract for the last several years in Carolina. He'd be perfect. He'd be the perfect addition.
He is your Owen Power partner.
Yeah.
Like dead ringer. He is the right D to your left-handed D. A veteran player that's been nothing but good throughout his career. It would be lovely to have him on this team. And I think just for the fact that he's right-handed shot, he's available, I think Kevyn Adams is going to be going hard at Brett Pesce.
100%. And obviously, Adams is in on everything. He calls about everyone. So
right.
I'm a little weary about like, oh, the Sabres have called on this guy. Well, they call on everyone. I think that's the rep that Kevyn Adams has at this point. So I hope that they're actually interested in acquiring Pesce. I don't know what the cost is. I imagine that it's going to bare minimum Henri Jokiharju is going to have to be in this deal, because if they bring in a guy like Pesce or sign, I don't know, a guy like Dumba, I'm just throwing out names here, not saying it's a good idea or a bad idea. Where does Henri Jokiharju fit on the depth chart? I don't know. I feel like if you're trading for Pesce, Jokiharju's in it, and then you're going to need a prospect and a pick, something along those lines. Now, I don't think 13th overall would have to be involved here. But if you're trading for Pesce, you probably want an extension, right?
Yeah, I would imagine, and they can give it to him.
Yeah, they got the money. What does an extension look like? Damon Severson did a sign-and trade with Columbus, 8 years. Was it 7 or 8 years? I think it was 8 years, $6.25 million. So I don't know if I want to give him that term and that big of a contract, but I'm sure that's what Pesce and his camp are looking at as a comparable here. So yeah, a Pesce would be perfect. Perfect. That's the bar for me. That's what I want.
Sometime later in the summer, when we have nothing to talk about, I think, and presuming these deals aren't already done, I want to do a little cap-friendly exercise where we re-sign Dahlin and Power to huge contracts and see when exactly they'll run into trouble. How far down the road does trouble come?
That'd be fun. We'll definitely do that this summer.
We'll do that later on this summer when there's little happening. But of course, coming out yesterday, Paul Hamilton saying it. One of a couple people, Lance Lysowski as well. But Dahlin and Power apparently have expressed to Kevyn Adams their desire to be here long term.
And Chad DeMonicis of Expected Buffalo stating last week that they're already pretty far down the rabbit hole when it comes to a Rasmus Dahlin extension. According to him, around the 8-year, $10 million range. So that would make Dahlin the third highest paid defenseman in the NHL. So
yeah,
Power is a tricky extension. I really don't know what he's going to get. And if I'm Owen Power, I am not signing a max term deal right now because he's only played one full year. So typically, when you're negotiating long term, he's Owen Power. If I'm Power, I'm like, okay, give me the Dahlin contract, the 3-year deal, and then I'm going to cash in big in a few years. But look at Samuelsson, he signed his extension after barely playing any games too, and that's already looking like a nice contract. So if they can get their business taken care of this summer with Dahlin and Power, that sets you up for great things, and hopefully they get some bargains.
That's right. Nail on the head there.
Are there any other Are there any other defensemen that you're kind of focusing in on for whether it's free agents or trades? Kind of going back to the Brett Pesce discussion.
Well, let me bring up the no one springs to the top of my mind, but I'll bring up the free agents here. No one springs to the top of my mind is because I don't know everybody that is available right now or in the free agent pool. Well, let's see here. I know you mentioned Matt Dumba. That would be interesting. Right-handed shot, of course. Erik Johnson. That was just decided. I think that he's not coming back right.
Right.
That story just broke. So that would be a good veteran piece and a guy who just came off a Stanley Cup win as well. What would you think? Actually, I did think about this. Is Oliver Ekman-Larsson worth a flyer? Is he better than Jacob Bryson? Is he better than
Riley
anyone
Stillman?
Is he better than Riley Stillman? Right. But do you
I
want a
don't
pairing?
know.
Do you want a pairing of Ilya Lyubushkin and OEL?
No. I don't know. I don't think he's good. Like, genuinely, I don't think he's good. And like they've got Stillman, they've got Bryson, they have Clague. I don't see any reason to bring him in. Like, if you're gonna get a left D for the third pair to play with Lyubushkin, go get like a solid upgrade.
Yeah,
like Soucy, Carson Soucy. That's the kind of defenseman I'm looking for. If I'm like, obviously you want to bring in that right shot D, like a Brett Pesce. But if you're going to go a step further than that, I want a guy like Carson Soucy. But I think there's going to be a ton of interest in him.
Now, if you want a guy to play
opens
with Lyubushkin, what about Shane Gostisbehere?
I don't know.
He is left-handed.
Ghost is good, but I feel like that type of defenseman, you have that already. You want more of like a stay-at-home defenseman almost. Yeah. I don't know. Ghost is good, but he's not the type of defenseman that I would be looking at.
It's a pretty fascinating free agency class for defensemen. You know who I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole is Radko Gudas. For some reason, a lot of people piped him up during the playoffs. I think he sucks. I'll be flat out. I don't see it. It's not what this team needs right now. We don't need more dumb penalties from our defense. I don't think he serves any value to what this team is at right now.
I think he priced himself out of being like a good under the radar signing the way that he played in the playoffs. So yeah, before the playoffs started, I was like, okay, Gudas is a good idea, but then he got gassed up a little bit.
He certainly did.
Of the playoffs. I think he stays in Florida at the end of the day, though.
Because from what I saw in the playoffs, I don't see why he was even talked about to begin with. It actually made me angry. It made me think he was like one of those guys that people talk about just to talk about, right? Because I thought he was brutal. I thought it would just be like bringing in another Ristolainen type guy. I mean, he's Radko Gudas, people. Can we like this isn't directed at anybody in particular, but you know, like the people who wanted him. Have you watched his career? He's Radko Gudas for a reason. He's a cheap shot artist. He's not known for how he plays. I don't want him on this team. Just plain and simple. I don't think he brings anything.
A lot of people
and he played lousy.
A lot of people want that physical presence.
Yeah, well, you have Lyubushkin and you have Stillman. I think there's enough physicality on this team. There's 5 guys on the ice at a time, okay? If Gudas plays 17 minutes a game, you know, I don't think it's that big a deal if that's not on your team. You have 5 other guys who are on the ice that can take care of that. I don't want him. I'll rest on that.
All right. Well, I pray that Radko Gudas is not on this team on July 1st because, actually, I think it'd be kind of interesting to see you rant if they did bring him in. So
I don't think
I feel like we haven't had a good Luke rant in a very long time.
Well, hey, I did find the video I made of Jack Eichel. Remember a few years ago, the Jack Eichel loves Buffalo video. I found that in my Google Drive while searching.
Oh my god!
So I do still have that. But no,
I don't. Are we able to play that on here?
We can, but I'd have to go back and find it.
Next episode, we'll play it.
Yeah, maybe I'll post it again.
I feel like we were ahead of the time on the
Oh,
Eichel
we were.
trade
I mean, I
talk.
think we saw it coming down the pipeline
Yeah,
for a while, but
well before the neck surgery stuff.
yeah. Yeah,
Ooh, good times.
that's right. Did you want to get into questions or?
Before we get into questions, draft stuff. We'll talk about the draft a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have I know you're not the biggest draft guy. Is there anyone that you're kind of focusing in on that you're hoping for?
Well, I'm hoping Michkov slides to us.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
aren't we all?
Yeah, that's because that seems to be the prevailing storyline right now.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping for a defenseman, and listening to Jerry Fortin, Sabres director of amateur scouting, talk yesterday with Kevin Adams. I would be kind of surprised if they don't pick a defenseman. And he was like, I'm shocked. He said that he was shocked to see like some mock drafts where there's no defenseman going in the top 10. And if you look back at every draft since like 2003, a defenseman always goes in the top 10. Always. Mm-hmm. Even if they don't deserve it, someone is going to go in the top 10. I am willing to bet 2 defensemen go in the top 10 this year.
NHL GMs are going to NHL GM, right?
Yeah. Especially like Reinbacher, he's not going to see 13th overall. I think that Sandin Pellikka is probably gone before Buffalo, and most likely Tom Willander or Dmitry Simashev also are gone. One of those two are probably gone by the time Buffalo's up to. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that 3, maybe 4 defensemen are off the board before Buffalo's picking. My dream, I want Dmitry Simashev, 6'4", 200+ pound Russian defenseman.
That's a big boy.
Left-handed shot. He can skate supremely well. He looks like a Russian Rasmus Dahlin out there. He's phenomenal. He's really good. I really want him. Tom Willander, he's a Swede. Not the biggest guy. He's like 6 foot. But he's not small, but he's not huge like Simashev. But he had a really good under 18s for Team Sweden. He's going to go to Boston University next year. Also, he's been a huge riser. Got to keep in mind the Sabres put a gigantic emphasis on the world under 18s. So him, Axel Sandin Pellikka, 2 big contributors for Team Sweden at the U18s. I feel like those 2 guys could be candidates. I think Sandin Pellikka will probably be gone, though. So those are kind of the 3 defensemen that would make sense for pick 13. As far as forwards go, Oliver Moore, center for the U.S. National Team Development Program. I really like him. Phenomenal skater. Really good 2-way center. He'd be perfect. I think if in a perfect world, if they're going forward, I want Oliver Moore. If you're going defenseman, I want Dmitry Simashev. Those are my 2 guys.
I just can't believe how young these prospects are getting. We are 23, 24 years old now, and Simashev is 18 and was born right before Ovechkin was drafted. So, like, next year, there's going to be guys who, that he was born after. I think Ovechkin was drafted in 2004. But next year, there's going to be guys who were born, like, after Ovechkin and Crosby started their career.
That's crazy.
You know, like, for us, the icons for us growing up were Crosby and Ovechkin. For these guys, is it still Crosby and Ovechkin, or who is it? Is it going to be
McDavid?
I guess
David Draisaitl?
I guess it could still be Crosby and Ovechkin, just because they were still like 9 years old in 2014. So those guys were in their primes. But it's getting weird where we're getting to that point where these prospects are going to have. It's not always going to be my favorite player growing up was Sidney Crosby. You know, pretty soon it's going to be my favorite player growing up was Connor McDavid.
I feel like that's already starting to happen. It's kind of crazy.
Creepy. Yeah, because What, he would have been 13? Oh my God!
I was
It was drafted.
rewatching the 2022 draft, the Sportsnet
Yeah.
coverage of it the other day, and Matthew Savoy was an Oilers fan growing up,
Oh,
and Carolyn Cameron was like, "Oh, you were big Oilers fan celebrating when Connor McDavid was drafted by the Oilers. How does this feel? Comparison, something like that." So like Savoy grew up watching Connor McDavid. He probably
yeah.
idolized the guy. So
Oh, so wait, I want to see something. I want to look up Matt Savoy on Hockey Prospects. Just want to see. So, oh, okay. So he was born in 04, right? Man.
yeah,
So he doesn't even remember the Oilers Cup run, probably.
right.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's just really weird. Like, I remember that, and now there's guys in the league that isn't time weird. That's pretty much what I'm saying. Isn't it weird how time goes on? That
Yes.
people keep getting born. I sound like an idiot right now, but it's just, oh man, I don't know. It's wild. I had something I wanted, a video I wanted. One second, I don't know if you can hear that going off, but let me turn that off. Okay. I had a video I wanted to play before we wrapped up or got into questions here.
Okay.
If this is the time I can do it. Did you see the clip of, Bill Burr, comedian?
Yes.
Did you see the clip of him on the Red Sox broadcast making a Lindy Ruff joke?
I did see that actually. I didn't know that was Bill Burr though.
I'm going to share this anyway, just so our watchers and listeners can catch this. This is from the NESN broadcast, but I think it's pretty great. It's Bill Burr just making a random Lindy Ruff joke, and our listeners will be able to hear it too. But here I'm gonna bring it up here, show it on stream, and we'll give us a listen. I think it's pretty funny.
It's like he's leaning on a signpost calling the game.
So Castro will go to the game to play
He's
left.
got enough pads on. He looks like Lindy Ruff. It's an NHL reference from 40 years ago. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm old enough to get it. So
This ex-NHL player told me what his nickname was. It was Lindy on the road, Ruff at home. How great is that? He was a gentleman in your building.
right.
At home, the stick would come up. Back
beautiful.
in the yard.
I
Back
love
in
that.
the yard, yeah.
So yeah,
I had no idea that was Bill Burr.
Lindy Ruff, I guess he was a crowd pleaser. He stirred stuff up at home, but how weird is that? I mentioned.
Was he a Sabres fan?
No, Bill Burr is firmly a New Englander. He's a big sports fan though, so I'm not
strange.
I'm not shocked he knows a little bit about Lindy Ruff's playing career. I thought we should share it. That's courtesy of NESN, and also give that Twitter account a follow. That was posted by Buffalo Hockey Moments. They post like every goal as it happens. So yeah, their last actual like tweet before this, I think, was April 14th. Krebs making it 5-2 against Columbus.
All
so
right.
give them a
Good
follow
stuff.
at Sabres Plays.
Questions? You want to bring that up?
Yeah, questions. Where do we get most of them? Were they sent? Oh God, they're everywhere. They're on my page. They're on your page.
Yeah, I tagged.
Holy moly!
I tagged our show Twitter account and also you, so you should be able to see them.
Let me see here. Let me go. Oh right, yeah. Duh. Okay, yeah. I'll go to the original. I'll go to your tweet. Yeah. All right. First one from William Wertheim. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Is it just me, or are we fans, in parentheses, too eager to trade UPL away? It was his first full year in the league, playing behind arguably the worst defense in the league. Well, isn't the pretty option. I'd rather stick with him than go out and get yet another unproven fringe starter. Yeah, I think I'm with you, William. I'm with you. I've been critical of him too, but it's best right now to stick with him. He'll be splitting time anyway with Levi, so it's going to be an exciting tandem if they go that way, no matter what. But I do, and I'm guilty of this too. I do think maybe some folks might be jumping the gun on trading him right? Like, I don't know if he'd be the guy that's traded here as the offseason has gone on. I think I've changed my stance on that. But yeah, I think maybe some folks are a little too eager, just because part of it is because we got a small taste of winning again for the first time in a while, and some might see that as purge all the weaklings, right? Purge everybody that isn't productive.
I think that, yeah, maybe we've become a little eager to move on from him, but he was up and down last year, that's for sure. Like, he had his good stretches, he had his horrible stretches, but I think given the season the Sabres had last year, and it's time to win. And obviously they're not going to move on from Levi.
Mm-hmm.
If there's an upgrade to be made, you're upgrading Luukkonen, you're upgrading Comrie. So I don't think it's really saying much about Luukkonen. It's they really like Levi, and we want to do better than Luukkonen. So maybe they go the 3 goalie route, but judging by the goalies that likely will be available on the free agent market, like 75% of them, I think I would almost prefer to roll the dice and just hope that Luukkonen turns out to be something good. Because a lot of the guys, like Martin Jones had a okay year, kind of a bounce back. But like, I'd rather just roll with Luukkonen than go sign Eric Comrie 2.0 or get some retread like Jaro Halak or Martin Jones or that German guy. What's his name? Grice. Like, I don't want any of those guys.
In the league?
Yeah, he was on the Blues last year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
I had no idea.
I don't want a retread like that where they've been around forever, like little to no success, or like Joey Decord. Joey Decord is the new Eric Comrie. He's the new Eric Comrie. He's very good AHL year. Yeah, because I think he is in a similar situation as Comrie was. I think he's going to be a Group 6 free agent because he hasn't played enough NHL games. He was phenomenal in the AHL with Coachella Valley, went to the finals, lost in Game 7. He could walk away, and he's the new Eric Comrie. I don't want Carter Hutton 2.0. Alex Lyon is Carter Hutton 2.0. I don't want Eric Comrie 2.0, like a Joey Decord. Like, they might be good, but I'm not taking the chance.
The Sabres have to do all they can to avoid the goalie version of Ville Laino, is hearing and what I am observing by looking at who's available.
Yeah, I think Frederik Andersen makes the most sense. Or Antti Raanta, whoever
the odd man out is.
Whoever isn't kept by Carolina, if one of them ends up testing free agency. But like I said, I think it's more likely than not that they go with 3 goalies again next year, whether it's Comrie, Luukkonen, and Levi, or bring a guy in, Luukkonen and Levi. They're going to bring in a guy for like 1 or 2 years and go from there.
Yeah. All right, William, thank you very much. Good to see you in our replies again. The next one is from Joe. Based on your draft list and Mackenzie's recent rankings, do you see Buffalo trading back based on the available depth at 13? P.S. Been listening to you guys for a while. Keep up the great stuff. Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate that. Thank you. Joe, I'll let you take that one.
I think they're going to stay put at 13. I did tweet out a list of guys who I think could be potential options at pick 13. Let me pull that up really quick.
And while he's doing that, Joe, thank you very much for continuing to listen while also knowing that I am not a draft guy.
Okay, so I put together a brief little list. Like you said before, Mitch Kaw would be great. For my opinion, Zach Benson would be great. Those are 2 guys who are very much wild cards. Benson undersized, but super talented, good 2-way player. Played with Matt Savoy in Winnipeg. Nobody knows where this guy's going because of his size. Similar situation to Matt Savoy last year. Probably could have gone in the top 5, but slid out because he's little. and Matvey Michkov as well. So I put those two guys in their own category. Are they likely to be there at 13? Probably not, but if they are, it'd be great. Oliver Moore would be my primary forward target. Dmitry Simashev would be my primary defensive target. And I also listed Edward Shala, Matthew Wood, Tom Villander, and Axel Sandin Pellikka as likely options at pick 13. Kevyn Adams hasn't traded back yet. He has traded up for JJ Peterka in his first draft, but we haven't seen him trade back yet. And, they do put an emphasis on analytics and the analytical thing to do. You see that with like Carolina, Toronto did it under Dubas quite a bit, trading back, getting more picks. But the Sabres have a ton of picks. So I could see them trading back if they like a guy like, I don't know, Quentin Musty, Daniel Boot. Those guys have been kind of linked to the Sabres a little bit, but you don't really see them at pick 13 in the rankings very much. So maybe if they like a guy and they think they can trade back a little bit, recoup some assets, you could see them doing that. But I think they probably stay put at pick 13.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe, for the question. Next, a frequent listener, frequent question asker as well. Flexon Mobile, one of my favorite names to see in our replies. Who are your top 3 offer sheet candidates this offseason? And also, who will the top 3 teams in the Atlantic be in 2025?
Oh, great question.
Man, I'm trying to pull up a list of RFAs right now.
I don't think the Sabres are going to do an offer sheet, but I think just in general, offer sheet candidates, let's take a look at that.
Yeah. Alex DeBrincat, I think, might be number 1 because he's given Ottawa a very hard time. I think he's trying. It's almost like he's sending hints around the league. Like, hey, offer sheet me. I'm not crazy about this place. Yeah. Pierre-Luc Dubois, I don't think he's too keen on going back to Winnipeg.
He's not keen at all. He wants out.
Yeah. And maybe he won't be offer sheeted because, no. Wait a minute now. He could be number 1 because Winnipeg is poised to blow everything up.
Yeah. I think sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. If someone offers him $8-9 million, if you're the Jets, you probably take the picks, right? You take the compensation.
Definitely.
So that's essentially the same as trading him and what you'd get for trading him. Hell, it's probably more than what you get for trading him. So
you got to remember, offer sheets, picks are not protected. So if you offer sheet a guy and you can win the draft lottery from that, depending on where you go.
Well, yeah. See, imagine if Montreal does it or something. Well, maybe that might bar a team like Montreal from doing it, but that's a name. Honestly, there's not. I can't find a third possible one on here.
K'Andre Miller.
Yeah, okay.
The Rangers don't have a ton of cap space.
Mm-hmm.
If the Sabres were to offer sheet anyone, K'Andre Miller is the guy for me.
What about you say? Well, hey, they don't have a lot of cap space. What about Alexis Lafreniere?
Oh, that's interesting.
It's crazy how fast time has moved that he's available now.
See, I don't think DeBrincat or Dubois will get to the point where an offer sheet would even happen. I think they're both going to get moved on draft day.
I have a goalie for you. We're bringing up more than 3 names here, but there actually are some
Gustafsson
names. No, Jeremy Swayman.
Oh, yeah. Swayman and Gustafsson are interesting, too.
Yeah. Gustafsson came out of nowhere this year.
Yeah. Look how dumb Ottawa looks.
Really?
Him.
Seriously.
And that might be a case to hold on to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, too.
Yeah.
Because at this point, because Gustafsson was a 2016 draft pick, Luukkonen is a 2017 draft pick. So next year, relative to each other, next year would be the same developmental year as Gustafsson was for Luukkonen. So that's a case to hold on to him, I guess.
I think of all these, though, Dubois and DeBrincat are probably 1A, 1B in my eyes.
Yeah, Miller would probably be third.
Yeah.
And one of the goalies too. I think if you want to get Jeremy Swayman, they don't have money available. They're gonna have to do something.
They just re-signed Brandon Bussey to a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
So that could be them preparing, or it could be them just completely not related. He's a depth
Allmark. Does Allmark get moved? Matt Grzelcyk probably gets moved.
They aren't keeping both those goalies though. I don't think it's possible unless, I don't know, does Bergeron retiring take any money off the books?
The thing is, Bergeron and Krejci, because they signed over 35 contracts. They signed a 1-year contract. They have bonus overage. I think there's like $4 million worth of cap penalties because Bergeron and Krejci hit their bonuses.
Okay.
So the Bruins, they have a lot of holes to fill and not enough cap space. Like they probably have enough money to re-sign Swayman himself, and they have so many holes to fill. So like, do they trade Matt Grzelcyk? Do they trade Taylor Hall? They want to bring back Tyler Bertuzzi. There's lots of moves to be made there. So Bruins are going to be interesting.
One more name. Vince Dunn is an RFA, but Seattle's going to throw big bucks at him. He's not going anywhere. Yeah. So now second part of Flexon's question was, who will be the top 3 teams in the Atlantic in 2025? So let's go 2020. Let's go
2025. Okay.
Let's go 2024-2025 season. So season after this.
2 years from now.
Yeah. I'm tempted to keep Toronto in there.
I was just going to say, tell me what's happening with Toronto, because if they're losing Austin Matthews, what do you, I don't like, if they don't have Austin Matthews, good luck. But I feel like they're going to end up keeping their core guys. So yeah, you can continue and I'll give mine.
I could see Florida continuing an upward momentum.
Yeah.
And not to be a homer, but it's very hard not to do this, considering if they won a few more games, they would have been top 3 this year. The Sabres. That's in no particular order, by the way. But I mean, the Sabres could have been in the Lightning spot this year if they won a few more games on that 8-game losing streak and didn't blow a few games. There it is. The 8 games come up again. But no, I think the Sabres, they'd be there already. So I think there's no reason, if you continue to go upward, that they won't be in the top 3. So no particular order: Sabres, Leafs, Panthers.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go Buffalo, Toronto, Ottawa in no particular order.
A first round matchup of Toronto and Ottawa would be wonderful.
Yeah. I think Ottawa, they've got a lot of good young pieces, and once they get this all figured out, I think they're going to be fine. I know everyone likes to crap on Ottawa for trying to get good players, but man, they have good players. Once they figure it out, they're going to be really good. And I don't think Toronto is going anywhere anytime soon. I think Boston is going to trail off. Florida, I think that their cap situation is going to be very interesting to maneuver here. So, but I don't think they're going to drop off the face of the earth by any means. And I think Tampa is going to you're going to start to see them trail off a little bit. And Detroit, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that Steve Yzerman, going into his 5th year as Detroit Red Wings GM, is going to just kind of sit pat and not do whatever he can to make the playoffs. That's another big thing with the Sabres here. You got to remember, other teams are also going to try and get better. So that puts, I don't think it puts pressure on Kevyn Adams himself, but you got to remember, Ottawa's in their playoff drought. Detroit's in their playoff drought. Both of them, they tried last year. Buffalo got the upper hand. Are Detroit and Ottawa going to make another kick at the can here to try and improve? And if it actually works, what happens to Buffalo?
That said, though, I think the Sabres have a clearer direction than the Lightning. Right. Not the Lightning, I'm sorry, than the Red Wings. The Red Wings don't do anything for me right now.
Well, if they get to Brinkett, what if they get to Brinkett and Hellebuck? Are
Okay,
they
then they might
making the
be
playoffs?
then they might be top 3 in the Atlantic this season, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But especially with Hellebuyck.
They're both Michigan guys.
Mhm.
They have the assets they have 4 first-round picks. They have 2 firsts this year, 2 firsts next year, 3 high seconds this year, and I believe just 1 second next year. So they have lots of picks.
You
They could
know,
easily trade for DeBrincat and Hellebuyck. Easily.
obviously, for our sake, I don't like it, but the NHL playoffs are better when Detroit is in them.
Right.
And I think it would be cool to see Hellebuyck there just because, I don't know, I'd like to see Detroit back in, but not at our expense, of course. But
Listen, they had that 25-year playoff streak.
yeah,
They can afford another year
they
or two of
can.
losing.
And I say this, and it's almost like I'm kind of still sick of them because of how long they were in the playoffs for and how boring they were all those years. But yeah, playoffs are better when they're in. So hopefully they can get better, but not at our expense. Hopefully it'll be see the mantra has to be it's not so much that I succeed, others should fail. That has to be the Sabres mantra.
I want to see a Sabres Senators rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Like a proper rivalry. It seemed like we were starting to see a little bit of a Sabres Lightning rivalry.
Sabres Lightning. Sabres Ottawa
Yeah.
was kind of brewing a little bit last year,
Mhm.
too. You had, I mean, right from the first game of the season, Austin Watson and Jeff Skinner on a hot mic with one of the greatest chirps of all time that I've ever heard. It's trending that direction. I think there were a few times where there was some nasty scuffles. So, yeah, let's do it. All right.
I'm for it.
We have one more question. From Buffalo Sports Fan 35. What do you think the market for Victor Olofsson will be if you were the GM? What would you be targeting as the return? Thank you, Buffalo Sports Fan 35.
We very much glossed over the fact that Victor
Mhm.
Olofsson is expecting a trade, according to Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News.
I immediately think second round pick and a prospect.
I just give me a pick.
Really?
Second round pick.
Yeah.
Second or third.
Someone
just get
might
him off the team.
overpay for goal scoring, you know.
Someone is listen, he had a terrible year last year and he still scored 28 goals. So someone will give up something of value for him. Like a lot of people just think that he's going to command like a 4th or a 5th round pick, but I don't think that's the case. Someone will give up a 2nd or a 3rd round pick for him. And you know what? Hey, use that pick to move up in the draft. Be like a guy like Quentin Musty.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you package the pick that you get for Victor Olofsson and you move up.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I feel like he's
Maybe
going to
some
get them
folks-
something okay.
Yeah, some folks might think second or prospect is wishful thinking, but I tend to think that NHL GMs get desperate and don't make the wisest decisions sometimes. And they might see his goal scoring numbers and be like, well, it's worth it, whatever. My fear is Victor Olofsson goes to another team like Carolina. Say,
Mhm.
what if he's in the Brett Pesce deal? He goes there because, you know, who knows if Max Pacioretty, how long he'll take if there's concerns there with his injuries, right? Maybe they view him as a replacement goal scoring wise. My fear is he'll go there and just
Rip it up.
He'll become Reinhart, Eichel, or O'Reilly and destroy and become like a 40 goal scorer. And still, that's my concern with him because that's how things work around here.
Do you think there's any way that they don't trade him?
No.
Like, is there any scenario where Victor Olofsson is on the team in training camp?
He certainly does feel like a relic of a bygone era.
Like,
right?
if you
He
think
feels
about
like
it,
part of the old guard.
Yeah, it's a contract year too. Is he gonna score 40 this year?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Like, do they hold on
keep him
to
around
him
for that?
Do they hold on to him thinking, okay, this guy's going to be motivated?
See, that could work in their favor, though, if they trade him, right?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if GMs think that way. Well, hey, he's motivated. He'll come in, score 40 goals because he knows we want to pay him. You know, so Hey, I don't know. We don't know what these GMs talk about. It's a fascinating idea because guys always do well in contract years.
Yeah, and
So
you got to remember, ever since the emergence of Tage Thompson, like his spot on that power play is gone in Buffalo. Like if he is the go-to trigger man on another team's power play, he's gonna score.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. It's like just when Eichel was here. He got tons of goals. He had a great player dishing him the puck, and he's gonna find the back of the net. So if he goes to a team like the Islanders or Carolina, where there's opportunity
Carolina
there.
with the smoke around Pesce, that might be a thing that can happen.
Yeah.
Maybe Olofsson, and how much is Olofsson making right now?
I feel he's just below 5 million. So him and Pesce are pretty.
They're pretty similar. I think Pesce's 4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Olofsson's 4.75. So it'd be
okay.
Essentially a wash.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe what if it's a 1-for-1? Could you imagine that, a 1-for-1?
Oh God, that would be
wilder.
Beautiful.
Things have happened.
Yeah, Rasmus Ristolainen got a first, a second, and Robert.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Possible.
Exactly. So, Buffalo Sports Fan 35. Thank you for that question. I hope we didn't get your hopes up too much, but listen, NHL GMs
expect less, and if you got anything more, you'll be happy.
That's right. NHL GMs are a wild beast. That's for sure.
I think it's going to be a second.
Yeah. So our expectations are between a second-round pick and Brett Pesce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll take it. Did you have anything else to wrap up on?
No. That's all I have.
Well,
but I hope to be back in town for draft day. I hope that we can do a nice live podcast, draft watch along with our listeners. Hopefully get some guests on. But yeah, I'll have more clarity on that in the coming days.
Yeah. Well, have fun on your trip.
Thank you.
Of course. I have one thing I want to mention. It's about my personal life. Okay.
Okay.
I don't tweet about this stuff. Just because I think I don't like the idea of putting this stuff out there. Like just the optics of it, because it's weird sharing this kind of stuff with essentially strangers, right? That's what I mean. I love my followers. I love them, and I think I would be friends with a lot of them if we met in real life. Some of them I do consider friends, but I didn't put this out there in the public, only on Facebook where I'm friends with family and stuff. But my dad went into Roswell Tuesday afternoon to have some lumps removed from his lung. They also wound up taking out some lymph nodes. It was cancer that they took out. It was a 4-hour procedure. So it ended on Tuesday night around 6:30. He is home today.
Wow. Oh, that's good.
They told him recovery, or they told him he could be in the hospital anywhere from 3 to 5 days recovering. He's already home.
Wow.
So I was thinking, I'll go up tomorrow before work and visit him. Oh, I could just stop by his house. So how about that? How crazy is that? He's
that's good news. Happy for you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there. So when I look back, I can say I acknowledge my dad. And if you know anybody who smokes, kick their ass. That's what I'll say. No, so he sounds great. Everything's great. So
good.
It was a long process, but it's over with now. So there we go.
Awesome news. Glad to hear that.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, we will wrap up. If you're with us for the whole 1 hour and 25 minutes, thank you very much. I'm Luke. He's Joe. Draft day is next week. We might be talking to you then. Until then, though, until next time, whatever that may be, goodbye.